Hello, welcome back to Spellbound. I'm BJ the Book Witch, and this is my May wrap-up, which was focused entirely on fairy-centered stories. Specifically, I read the entire ACOTAR series, or A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas for the first time, the Cursebreakers series by Brigid Kemmerer, and 2 books out of the Zodiac Academy spin-off series. And I have thoughts. Okay, so it is officially summertime in the Sunshine State. The pool here at Laureate Manor is open, and I have just spent the past 4 days almost exclusively in the water, getting caught up on my highly themed summer TBR. You can check out all the details from it right here, but essentially, each month was going to be focused on a different theme. So May was all about fairies and fae-centered stories. June is all about mermaids, specifically mermaid stories written by marginalized voices or BIPOC authors. July is for pirate adventures and tales on the high seas, and August is reserved for Peter Pan retellings. So, highly themed summer TBR, and we just finished month 1. Fairies. I did succeed in reading 2 whole series this month, including the ACOTAR series, which we will get into, but there were some other books in there too, so let's cover some stats. In May, I read 12 books, totaling 5,989 pages, averaging about 193 pages per day. I think that might be my highest page count. No, in March of last year, I had an average of 213 pages per day, and I read like 26 books. I don't know how I did that. I read 1 5-star, 4 4-stars, 2 3.5 star, 1 3-star, 1 2.5 star, 2 2-stars, and 1 1-star. So let's softball us right in with the Cursebreakers Series by Brigid Kemmerer. These books include A Curse So Dark and Lonely, A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and A Vow So Bold and Deadly. Altogether, I found these books to be super underwhelming. And I think that's because these books weren't necessarily hyped on Book Talk, because by the time I finally joined Book Talk and BookTube last year, these books weren't talked about a lot, but they were referred to, and referred to with respect. So they would be included in a lot of these 5 books that videos, right? Like 5 books that have a fairy tale retelling, or 5 books that have an enemies to lovers romance, or things like that. But I was not at all impressed by these books. Overall, this series skews quite young. So while I might have enjoyed it when I was in middle school or like late elementary school, reading it now felt weird and felt like the plot was very small. It also felt like I was reading the plot as the writer was actively writing it. So plainly, it did not feel like Kemmerer knew what she wanted to do with the plot overall, or with her characters, until the end of each book. So the characters felt and read unfocused and unraveled instead of multi-dimensional and built over time. A Curse So Dark and Lonely. In this contemporary fantasy retelling of Beauty and the Beast, a prince relies on the assistance of a headstrong girl from Washington, D.C. to help him break his curse. 4 stars. So okay, this book was fine. Right down the plate. I gave it 4 stars because it set out what it was trying to do. And bonus points for disability rep for the main character having cerebral palsy. That was very cool to read about. However, the writing being so simple and so young really threw me off, especially considering the tone. So the tone of the romance and the tone of the prince character specifically was at best brooding, but at worst doleful, like just morose, positively moribund. It was screaming #self-loathing bad boy to me, and that was just so at odds with how simple and young the writing was. A Heart So Fierce and Broken. 3 stars. So this book follows the bodyguard and best friend of the prince from book 1. And while his perspective is far more interesting to read about than either of the main 2 characters from book 1, the author still doesn't know what to do with them. She doesn't know where the plot's gonna go. So he wanders, and we just wander with him. The only thing that this book did definitively was make us hate the prince and main character from book 1. A vow so bold and deadly. 3 stars. So this book is 90% damage control from the actions of the main characters from their harebrained scheme at the end of book 1. At the climax of book 1, they realize that they need to pull off this massive charade and fool everybody in the kingdom in order to quickly save the day. And they do. But like I said, this series does not feel like it had a series arc through the whole thing. It definitely felt like 3 individual books written in a vacuum. So because of that, and because of the ridiculousness of the end of the first book, the entire 3rd book was just the main characters going around to the kingdom and saying, no, wait, never mind all that. Sorry for it. We can still rule the kingdom, though. Trust us to do that, because we are definitely not 3 10-year-olds in a trench coat. This whole series felt like I was reading middle grade, but not a middle grade series, just like middle grade books individually as part of just like a episodic, and that they had never been read through together as a whole. That's how it felt. Then I stumbled into a couple of other books that I thought still fit this theme. Dark Fae and Savage Fae by Caroline Peckham and Susanne Valenti. I was going for something like a palate cleanser between the Cursebreakers series but before I started the ACOTAR series, so something light on plot and easy on the thought brain, but what I actually stumbled into was a spin-off series of the wildly popular Zodiac Academy series. These books follow Elise as she attends a private magical boarding school to hunt for her brother's murderer. And y'all, I am in it for a good revenge plot. But this was not a revenge plot. This was an extremely unfocused and one-dimensional protagonist Scooby-Dooing around a school that read like a high school play's painted backdrop of Hogwarts, complete with a potions class in the dungeon, where she got caught up banging these 4 of the most identical bad boy antagonists that I have ever read. I was halfway through the 2nd book, Savage Fae, when I realized that I actually could not tell any of the characters apart. Beefy, brooding, and boring. Bummer. And then I read the ACOTAR series, or A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This was my first book and now series by SJM, and I'll admit that I'm a fan. Reading this series felt a lot like reading Harry Potter for the first time a couple of years ago. So based on my proximity to Book Talk and BookTube and general literary fandoms, I could have probably told you some of the major plot points or themes from the book, but it was still really neat getting to read the source material for such a groundbreaking series and finally feel like I'm inside on a lot of those bookish inside jokes. Now, this book series has been talked about so many times. And it has been discussed through intelligent and thought-provoking commentary on the feminism, whether sincere or performative in this book series, the hypocrisy, the toxic masculinity, the problematic, and the inspiring. So I don't have a ton to add to the literary discourse, other than my most immediate thoughts, because all things considered, these books are huge, and I read them very quickly. So in many ways, I am still processing these books, but here is what I am processing. A Court of Thorns and Roses. I thought that Maas did a great job of immediately thrusting us into a story. So if you don't know, the gist is that Feyre, a human, kills a shape-shifting fairy while she's out hunting, and as punishment, she is taken across the wall that divides the human world and the Fae world, and is taken to live forever in the Spring Court with Tamlin, the High Lord of the Spring Court. Now, there's some development for Feyre. She finally learns to exist on her own without having to provide for other people. And then she's in the Spring Court where it's forever spring, so there's daisies and fairy magic and romance, and it's cute, right? And then something happens where she has to undergo these very intense trials in order to win or earn her happily ever after. So it is very difficult to say much more than that without giving away any spoilers, because the beauty of this plot, I think, is in its simplicity, right? So you've got fish out of water, human navigating the magical fairy world, and then a big battle with your big baddie at the end. Cool. Simple. I also think that Maas does a good job of keeping us really focused and centered on this story and this adventure while hinting at the world overall, and potentially setting up for a bigger story, but keeping us grounded. I think that she does a good job of that. The quality of the writing bounces between some really nice passages with really beautiful imagery and, more frequently, some very inelegant turns of phrase, but whatever. You aren't in this series for the quality of writing. Guarantee it. You're here for the story. And in that way, I think it delivered. Book 2, A Court of Mist and Fury. So this book was a good time. And really, this is where the story really starts. The way that the series works overall is it makes the first book feel almost like a prequel. It's necessary insofar as it provides Feyre's backstory and like why she's here. But there's an argument to be made that Feyre's journey as a character really begins here, because Feyre's adventure and Feyre's life is not with the Spring Court. Difficult to say much more than that because of spoilers. But Feyre has bigger plans and bigger adventures ahead of her, and this book is where she develops most as a character. So this book is where you have the found family trope, the enemies to lovers trope, and the world building here is exciting. This book is where you see and experience all of that sweeping romanticism when it comes to the Night Court and Valeris and all of these other elements that I learned simply because of my proximity to the fandom. So it was really neat to see all of that come to life, and that's why this book was my favorite out of all of the others. Book 3, A Court of Wings and Ruin. So this book finished the adventure that was started in book 2. And it is very action-oriented and had a lot of battle strategy. So lots of war, lots of fighting. And I didn't hate that. But these books overall do not feel super evenly balanced. So this book was just more geared toward that plot, toward that adventure closing, and that big battle at the end, and not as much of the world building, the slow moments, the slow burn romance, or the found family banter. Book 4 is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and this one is a novella. So this book was a lot like the Disney animated shorts that they put out in between features, so like Spring Fever from Frozen or Toy Story of Terror. It's neat because you get to see your favorite characters and be like, oh yeah, ha, they do that thing, and it's funny. But like narratively, it's completely unnecessary. Book 5, A Court of Silver Flames. So this book follows Nesta, Feyre's sister, who is by far the most unlikable character in the entire series. She sucks. But this book follows her journey toward recovering from PTSD. And I found it really interesting to read about. I really liked the plot of this book. The only problem is she sucked as a character way before the moment of her PTSD. She wasn't misunderstood. She was just a raging bitch. She was a coward and a snob, and she constantly blamed her circumstances on other people while simultaneously benefiting from them and doing nothing to change her environment or circumstances. She sucked. The self-loathing in her character was something that I truly just can't relate to. And asking me to forgive her for 4 books of heinous behavior simply because she got in shape was too much of a tall order. So while I really did enjoy reading about her journey toward self-love and inner peace through meditation and exercise, I still can't stand her as a character. And I don't think that this was a thoughtful redemption arc because of it. What I did like about this book was that the plot itself was not focused on all of these characters saving the entire world as much as it was about Nesta and the immediacy of her circumstances. So it was very similar to Feyre from book 1, kind of refocusing that plot just on her journey, and then hinting at other things going on in the world. However, what we did peep of the other characters in this book was not at all interesting to me, and the ridiculousness of it all reached Twilight levels of absurdity. So I'll say that. I will also say that this book did live up to its reputation that it has in the bookish community as being spicy new adult. Overall, from this series, I hadn't really seen it. I thought there were some sexy parts, but really it was hovering around like mild buffalo in terms of spice level. But this book was frequent. And I mean, I won't argue that learning to express yourself sexually is part of the healing process. So kudos, but know that going in. Overall, I enjoyed this series. even if I completely agree with all of the arguments made against it and the hypocrisy within it. It was a good time, but there are problems. And now it is time for my favorite moment of the month, and that is my monthly giveaway. And this month I'm giving away the Fairy Loot exclusive version of Blood Scion by Deborah Follet. The Goodreads description is 15-year-old Sloane can incinerate an enemy at will. She is a scion, a descendant of the ancient Orisha gods. Under the Lucis' brutal rule, her identity means her death if her powers are discovered. But when she is forcibly conscripted into the Lucis army on her 15th birthday, Sloane sees a new opportunity to overcome the bloody challenges of Lucis training and destroy them from within. Sloane rises through the ranks and gains strength, but in doing so risks something greater, losing herself entirely and becoming the very monster that she abhors. So it sounds intense, it sounds fantastic. There are themes of Nigerian mythology, colonialism, and just learning to find yourself in a world that is unfair. So it looks fantastic. This edition is also beautiful. It has blue sprayed edges. It has the author nameplate, the author card with an art print. It has designed in papers here and in the back. And it has the illustrated inside dust jacket. The giveaway itself will be hosted over on Instagram. And all you have to do to enter the giveaway is to like and comment on the post that says giveaway. That's it. For this giveaway, comment and tell me if you prefer sprayed edges or reversible dust jackets. I think I prefer sprayed edges. So that's it. That's all you have to do. The giveaway itself will be up for 1 week, and then I use a number generator app to select a winner. So make sure that you're checking your DMs because that's how I'll contact you if you've won. So I did it. I read the entire ACOTAR series in 1 month along with a bunch of others, and I think I need a whole new month just to recover. But now that I am officially in on this fandom, I really want to connect with other readers and fans of this series. So let me know below, who are your favorite characters? Which one is your favorite book? Do you agree with some of the things that I said? Do you disagree? Do you hate the series? Why? I want to be friends. So let me know your thoughts on ACOTAR down below. So that's it from me and the month of May. Next month is June, and it's all about mermaids, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, hit subscribe. And of course, there's always Instagram, where I post my immediate thoughts about books right after I read them, and where you can follow along with me all summer as I try to tackle this incredibly intense and very highly themed mermaid, fairy, pirate, Peter Pan TBR. Take care, and as always, happy reading!